Good morning. Good morning. We do have a couple of things to go over in terms of updates, in terms of model guidance. Let's go ahead and start back at the beginning. We do have a latest SPC outlook just got released around half hour ago. We do have a slight risk now here in the state. As we see here in yellow, it extends all the way up to Mount Pleasant, all the way to Saginaw Flint area, all the way back through Ann Arbor, through Adrian, over to Benton Harbor, Grand Rapids area. That area is now upgraded to a level 2 out of 5. And that is going to be primarily for damaging winds. So here is your wind risk. The 5% extends pretty much all the way up to the very top of Lower Michigan. Your 15, your level 2 out of 5 is now 15%, is now towards the Mount Pleasant, Saginaw, Flint, Ann Arbor, Benton Harbor, Grand Rapids circle. Any place in between those cities I just listed are now in the risk for a higher risk, should I say, for damaging wind gusts this afternoon as storms start to fire up and push eastward. So with that being said, what about the tornado threat that still exists as well? We can actually take a little bit more of a zoomed in look on this. This is your 2% tornado risk. Now, this is still a concern. It's not gone away. We're going to have to watch storms today very closely for rotation. It's not overly concerning right now, but given the setup and everything that's going for this, the wind shear in place, stuff like that, we're going to have to watch this very closely with storms, especially with these QLCS squall lines that form. They try to spin up very quickly. So I have to keep a sharp eye on those today to see if they actually do try to tighten or if it's just going to be more of a wind threat. So we'll be live later to watch that. We'll be as soon as the storms start to fire up. I'm going live. I'm ready to go this afternoon. So with that being said, though, that 2% risk is highlighted here in green. Pretty much, it's a good chunk of population here in Lower Michigan. So anywhere from the US 131 corridor over towards South Haven, Holland, Grand Rapids, Fremont, Big Rapids, Clare, Mount Pleasant, Saginaw, Flint, Pontiac, Ann Arbor, Adrian, circle. All around those areas in between, you guys are in that 2% risk. If you're in the thumb of Michigan, all the way back through Metro Detroit area, you currently are not included in that risk, although I'd still be on alert for a potential spin-up tornado as that line moves through later on this evening. I think anybody within that path of that line needs to be on alert. It's just a little bit highest off to the west of you guys over there in the thumb and Metro Detroit areas. So with that being said, official timing has not changed either. 1 p.m. is looking to be the start time. And then that line is going to organize as it moves to the east through the state. As that moves east, it'll clear the state roughly about 9 to 10 p.m. So 1 to 10 p.m. is your time frame, earlier in the west, later in the east. At this point in time of the forecast time frame, we typically don't look at models too much because we're basically in the event now. We switch over to what we call mesoanalysis. It's real-time data. Overall, we can look at a few different models here, just get an idea of what they've been saying. This is the latest model here. Again, this is just some guidance. This isn't supposed to be taken as truth, just an idea of what could happen today. So we see the line of storms or the line of rain that moved through this morning push off to the east. It's actually a little bit drier right now than what's modeled on the radar here. So that may actually try to help boost some of our instability up a little bit. We're keeping an eye on that, closely. But as we move through the time frame in the afternoon here, we see storms start to develop in West Michigan at 2 p.m., as early as 2 p.m. at that point. And that line's going to organize slowly. There's 3 p.m., there's 4 p.m., there's 5 p.m. It's on the 127 corridor, and it keeps on strengthening as it pushes off to the east there. Now we see a nice little QLCS line here that develops. It's kind of hard to see, I guess, on your end. Let me just zoom in here so I can show you guys this. If you look closely, it's like a organized little thin strip, basically taking on the picture of what we call a QLCS, a quasi-linear convective system. It's like a squall line with damaging winds and potential spin-up tornadoes. And that is going to be the case today. Although the tornado threat is not very high, it's going to be a wind threat more so concerning. But overall, these systems have to be watched closely, which is what we're going to be doing this afternoon with chasers in the field and also on radar here. So either way, we got you guys covered. Damaging winds, still your main threat. Low chance of a spin-up tornado or two happening. We'll be here covering everything this afternoon. This is one model. We'll look at one more, take some questions for you guys. Same exact scenario on this model here. This is going to be noon today. We see some storms firing up as early as noon on this model. It might be early as noon, honestly. It depends on how quickly that moisture gets here. Overall, we're going to move this through the time frame. There's 1 p.m., here's 2 p.m., here's 3 p.m., here's 4 p.m. It keeps on organizing as it pushes off to the east, and it becomes a organized squall line on this model, more so east of US 127 towards the Adrian, Jackson, up toward the Flint areas, and that's going to push eastward into the Thumb, into the Detroit metro area. So this model doesn't really organize the line until it passes the I-69 corridor, but still, any of these storms that do fire over here on West Michigan would still have potential for both hazards of wind and a potential spin-up tornado there possible as well. So overall, we're watching radar, we're watching trends. We do have our mesoanalysis map pulled up here of real-time data. We're watching dew points to our south, watching instability, stuff like that. Overall, everything's happening right now as we expected it to. Nothing significant is changing. We're already seeing clearing out here in parts of Illinois try to push into the state. So if we get the sun to come out here, that may help the overall severe threat overall to intensify just a bit. We're watching our trends closely. All right, but overall, we do have a slight risk now that did get upgraded overnight, and that is going to be for the following areas here. The slight risk for the following areas you see on your map here: Saginaw is included, Flint's included, all the way through Ann Arbor, Adrian, Jackson, Coldwater, Kalamazoo, Benton Harbor, Three Rivers, Hastings, Lansing, Alma, Ionia. Those areas are in level 2 out of 5 for damaging winds. That marginal does extend further north outside of this map here. We want to take that back all the way up basically to the Gaylord, Alpena, Traverse City line. And that's pretty much the entire state. So if you live in lower Michigan today, you basically have a severe threat. With that being said, the winds are going to start picking up if they have not already. Gusts up to 40 to 50 miles per hour are possible today outside of storms. And any storms that do happen, any showers even that do happen, will have potential to drag those winds, stronger winds, down to the ground as well. So that's all I got for you guys. If you guys got questions, feel free to drop them in chat. Battle Creek is included, Allison, yes. Micah says he's in Alpena. Yeah, up there you are on the very tip top of the severe risk. We see Alpena actually on the map up here, just barely on that marginal risk. So you do have a threat today, although it's much higher off to your south. They already did extend the slight risk, actually, but I do think it could be extended further east, especially with latest model trends. Given that line organizes a little bit further east towards 127 and pushes into the Detroit area, into the Thumb, we could see that slight risk get pushed to the east for sure. I honestly kind of would expect it at this point, given the models are showing that. Next update for SPC comes at 12:30, so we have about 3 hours to go for that. We'll have an update if anything changes with it. But overall, definitely could see that being extended. Further north, though, I don't think it'll go further north. Yes, Ashley, 9 to 10 p.m. This line will clear out of the state. We'll get it all clear on our page once that happens. Will there be any watches issued? I honestly don't know. Today is one of those days that it could go either way. Given this overall setup potential for wind gusts, I could definitely see a severe watch being issued for damaging winds. I don't think we're going to get a tornado watch today. I highly doubt that. But sometimes those severe watches can also include the text of a couple tornadoes possible. So it all depends on who's really, it really all depends on how the atmosphere comes together today. Which right now it looks on track to materialize into some type of threat. So we'll keep an eye on this through the afternoon, or through the morning, should I say. Through the afternoon. No, I don't think there's going to be enhanced risk today. It's not that kind of threat. If we had more instability, probably would have been enhanced, but today is just not one of those days. Go ahead and scroll back up here, see if I missed anything. Last time they said a slight risk, it dropped a tornado near Marshall. Do you think that'll happen again? The risk categories don't always mean hazards. Okay, I'll put that out there. The slight risk today is mainly for damaging winds. The overall tornado threat back on February 27th was higher because we had more dynamics working for rotation in the atmosphere than we do today. We had a warm front We had an MCB. We had a lot of different atmospheric conditions come together to support rotation back on February 27th. Today, we have a lot of wind shear, but that wind shear is not overly favorable orientation to support rotation, although it still bears watching. So while I can say there's a chance today for a couple tornadoes, but overall the threat that we see is more so for damaging winds. Yeah, Joe, we can go back through future radar here. Let's look at the RRFS model here. Hope you guys can see this. So this is this morning already through. This is 9 a.m. right here. So this is what the radar should look like right now. And honestly, it doesn't. So this over here is cluttered. There's actually like very little rain over here toward Grand Rapids. All this is basically nothing here. Okay. That moves out, clears out. And then we have storms developing already at noon on this model. I'm thinking more so towards 1, although I'm not going to discount the earlier pop-up storms being possible. That line organizes at 3 p.m., starts to organize here across I-69 here towards the Jackson, Battle Creek, Coldwater areas, all the way up toward Mount Pleasant. That organizes at 4 p.m. and continues to push and organize eastward at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then clears the state by 10. So back that up just one more time, animate that. Storms develop at noon on this model. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not a good day to fly a kite. It is a perfect day to fly a kite, Terry. It is windy. Get out there and fly. Except when the storms come. Then you can definitely get inside. Which model is the RRR? That is the high resolution rapid refresh. We call it the HRRR. You'll hear people call it the HRR. It's a forecast model that we use. And we just went over it a little bit ago. But honestly, my personal favorite so far this year has been the RRFS model, which is the one you just saw. This is the HRRR. It's showing about the exact same thing as well, just a little later in time frame. Here's 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. It organizes a little bit better east of 127, and that continues to push off to the east, clears the state by roughly 10 p.m. So both models showing the exact same thing, essentially. And take with a grain of salt, too. It's not always accurate. This is just a general guidance to get an idea of where we could see some stronger storms, which on this model does appear to overlap pretty well with the marginal risk. Yes, we will be live. Okay. People ask us all the time, "Are you guys going to go live and be chasing?" Of course we will. Okay, this is what we're made for. This is what we live for. I'll be here on radar duty. Joel's going to join me this afternoon as well. Nick's going to hop on after work, roughly around 5 or so. And if he hops on before storms get to me, I may head out and chase. It depends on how it looks and how quickly he can get on. But Joel's got to leave this afternoon, so he'll be on for a few hours, but he's got to leave, unfortunately. So we do have Ben and Drew in the field chasing. I put out the okay, so it looks like we only have Ben and Drew for right now, and then everybody else is at work. It's a little bit earlier timing on this. So most of our staff, we obviously have full-time jobs outside of this. So if they can intercept at work or on their way home from work, they're going to do it. But otherwise, nobody's actively leaving work to chase. I do have Drew and Ben who are chasing full today. We got Rob, we got Chris, who said that they're going to be chasing after work. So, okay. I'm reading some text over here. Jesse, okay, I see your question here. I'm going to go ahead and read that. Not really, honestly, Jesse. Lakeshore communities aren't really at a lower risk than any of the other communities here in Michigan. They do have, I think, a little bit higher risk of onshore water spouts coming on. There's a couple instances here in Michigan, especially in West Michigan, that's happened before. But in terms of tornadic activity and severe weather activity, they're not immune just because they're on the lakeshore. I know it's not Lake Michigan, but we actually had a community on Lake Erie on the east side last year get hit by a tornado literally on the lake. It formed just before it went over the lake. So they're not immune. I see your questions more so talking about Lake Michigan. But no, those communities on the exact shoreline are not immune or in a lower threat. Yeah, Flint is in the risk today, guys, and you do have storm threat today, roughly around 5 p.m., give or take an hour or so. This model says 7 p.m. on this one, and this model says roughly 6 to 7. So between 5 and 7 p.m. if you're in Flint area, definitely be prepared for the incoming line. Kyle says he believes the Saugatuck Lighthouse was taken out by a tornado in 1956. I don't know anything about that, but I wouldn't doubt it. Yes, Heather, this is going to be a very fast-moving line. This is one of the systems as a storm chaser that you don't want to chase, because if you're chasing for a good structure like a shelf cloud or a good storm structure, today's going to be a decent day for that. But if you're chasing to see a tornado or to chase to, follow the storm, that is not today. Today is the day you go out, you set up an open field, and you let the storm run over you. At that point, you got to watch it and just say bye-bye. You're not going to catch it. Storm motions are 50 to 60 miles per hour today. Yeah, so unfortunately, guys, I mean, I can tell you the marginal risk here is basically for the entire state of Lower Michigan. Unless you're up by Mackinac, you're not in the risk, but otherwise you are. And I can't really predict where it's going to be highest or what areas are going to get better storms than others. All we can really see is there's a line of storms that looks to form and organize into a squall line. That is why that slight risk, that yellow area, is in place. It's a little bit higher of a risk for wind. I do think personally they're going to extend that further east, especially if these model trends continue with that line organizing a little bit further east. But overall, if you're in that slight risk area, I'd be on just a little bit higher alert, because the models are hinting at a little bit more organization down there. But otherwise, I can't really say, oh yeah, Grand Rapids. I can't really say Lansing's going to get a better storm than Grand Rapids. I can't say that. I just don't know. We just don't know. The chance of a tornado across the state, including Lansing there, Caleb, primarily is quite low today. Although we're going to watch trends very closely. If we can overachieve on moisture and or instability, we could be looking at a little bit higher of a threat. So really, my mindset today is expect anything, but don't anticipate anything, but don't really expect there to be many tornadoes in the state, if any at all. I don't think it's going to be an overly concerning threat. But again, with these QLCS lines, you never can be ruling these things out, unfortunately. I just don't think the threat is high today. No, this is not going to go enhanced. If this goes enhanced, I will do the ice bucket challenge live today. No, I don't expect there to be an enhanced risk at all. If we had more instability present, maybe. The wind is ripping. The wind right now is ripping in Linden. Okay. Figured as much. If you guys look up to the sky, you're going to see the low level clouds are screaming to the north. I'm looking out my window right now. That's a really good indication of those wind fields that we have in place today. One of you guys can actually turn around and see this. Yeah, my background's on. My bad. Hold on. Let me see if I can't do this real quick. I'm about to see my house. There we go. You can see the clouds there just screaming to the north. There we go. You guys see that? It's possible. We could see that slight risk get extended further east for sure. Yeah, straight line winds are the main threat today, Caleb. 40-mile-per-hour gusts in Powderville, that's expected. Any storms or showers that do form today are going to have potential to drag those winds closer to the ground that's aloft. We do have quite a strong wind field today. Do moderate and high risk categories ever get used? Yes, they do. We actually had a moderate risk, I think 2 years ago in Michigan. Last high risk here in Michigan was back in 2013. So very rare do we get a high risk here in Michigan, but overall they do get issued. We had a couple high risks last year down in Dixie Alley, out in the plains, those areas. The highest gust expected outside of storms today in Southeast Michigan. Outside of storms, up to 50 miles per hour. Time frame for cold water. Three to 4. Yeah, so Diane, that's a good point there. So straight line winds can be as damaging as a tornado. Obviously not as significant, but if you get 70, 80 mile per hour winds, that's a weak EF0 tornado type of wind speed right there. So straight line winds are always going to be a threat for damage, but more so speaking, tornadoes are more concerning, just because they can be stronger. We never know what to expect with those, but the damage can be equivalent to each other. My cat has decided to join the party. Pippi. Come here. Ooh, here we go. Okay, you want down? Okay. I'm relaxed today, guys. Sorry. Yeah, not a bad idea, Julie. Charge your phones, charge your devices you're going to need. Here you go. There you go. Definitely could see some power outages across the state. I actually wouldn't be shocked if there's some already with the wind. Let me go ahead and hop on Consumers Energy and see if I can locate any. Just lost my kite. Come on, Terry. You got to be kidding me. Not already. Mike, if we do have any tornadoes today, they're likely going to be weaker and short-lived. With these QLCS lines, they spin up very quickly. They often go unnoticed because of the way these lines interact and stuff like that. So overall, we have to watch radar extremely closely. Personally, I don't think there's going to be many, if any at all. I just think we're going to have a windy, gusty line of storms. But again, I'm prepared for anything. Yeah, April, between that time frame is a good idea for Jackson. We actually do have scattered outages. We have 73 outages reported, about 2,000 people affected. And up by Grand Rapids, Big Rapids, by Lansing, over toward Battle Creek, down towards Coldwater, Union City. They're scattered right now. So they're already coming in. Would expect those to increase through the day. Just a bit. All right, I'll go ahead and wrap this up here. For those of you who are still watching, we will go live later on as soon as storms fire up, roughly probably between noon and 2 p.m. So I'm going to take a break here, get some breakfast, prepare the electronics here for some streaming, and then go from there. But overall, I'll go over everything one more time. So we do have an upgrade from the SPC to a slight risk. Go and pull that back up for you guys. There we go. So the slight risk is in yellow there in central and southern Michigan. That could be extended further east with latest guidance. I would not be shocked if they include the Thumb and also Metro Detroit areas in that slight risk at the 12:30 p.m. update. We're not going to know until that time frame, but otherwise your slight risk is now in effect for damaging wind gusts with any storm this afternoon that fires up roughly starting in West Michigan around the noon to 2 p.m. time frame. The line will move east-northeast rapidly. It will clear the state by 9 to 10 p.m. So if you are in a dark green color or if you are in a yellow color, you are in a severe threat today. The only people who are not in a severe threat is the entire UP of Michigan and places up toward the Mackinac Island, Mackinac City areas. With that being said, the main time frame is, again, 1 to 9 p.m. Looking at models, we do see development in West Michigan roughly at 2 to 3 p.m. on this model. It could be earlier, but overall, that's your general time frame. That line organizes as it pushes off to the east-northeast. It'll clear the state roughly by 10 p.m. We are watching live data, our satellite for any sunshine, our dew points to see how much moisture there is, instability for storm fuel. There's a good analogy I read last night from a local meteorologist, Chris Easlick. We have a good working car engine today. So that's your wind shear. But without gas, which is your storm fuel, we can't go anywhere. So we have a good engine without any fuel, or very little fuel, should I say. How much fuel we have? Can we get off E? Can we get off the empty? Can we get up to the half tank? What can we get to today? That's going to be the main question. So watching everything closely, real-time data is going to be important today. Otherwise, we are chasing, we are streaming. We'll be here for you. Otherwise, that's all I got for you guys. So look at the comments one more time for some questions. I don't see any here. So with that being said, I'm going to hop off here. Expect us to go live again later today, roughly around 1-ish. And hopefully we'll talk about these storms staying sub-severe. But if anything does happen, we'll be here. Thanks, guys. See you later.